Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to our presentation about an export and an import plan for a Walker boot. Our tutor was Carla Maria Ortega, and this team is made of Claudia Paola Gallegos Cardiel, Pérez Marini and Pablo, Sandoval Domínguez Sector Alexis, and Tobar Gallardo Silvia María.
Okay, in this chapter, we will start with the company description. Okay, the company chosen for the export of the main product of this project is Farmacia Mexico, which is a Durango company located on Cinco de Febrero Avenue, number 230. This company is dedicated to health that offers medicines and orthopedic implements since 1966. This means that they are already 65 years of career in this area. This company has the general objective of continuing to grow in this branch and achieve positive impact on the market. And the qualities mentioned initially are the ones that motivated the choice because their approach is precisely what this project needs.
Now let's talk about the description of the product to be export and export. The first one is the product to be export. It is a Walker boot. As you can see in the image, it's a very innovative product, and its function is to contain a lower limb in cases of sprains, fractures, or other injuries that require supplementation of support and immobilization of the area. Now we have some of its characteristics. The first one is that it is kind of new because even if it has too much time in the market, it is not to know. Many people don't know what is it. It is very innovative because it allows the patient to have total immobilization required for their bones, but at the same time, they can take off the boot to do other things. It is as well very resistant to the materials that it is made of. It can resist to any kind of temperature, and it is very difficult to break. Once we have the characteristics, reading the notes, we agree to this tariff classification. As you can see, the title to 9021 is very, very specific, and this product fits perfectly with its description. 902110, artículos y aparatos de ortopedia o para fracturas, and its final tariff classification, 902110-06 with NICO 99, los demás. It was very difficult to find this tariff classification because it is not very specific, but it is the correct one. With the tariff classification, we had access to the non-tariff regulations and restrictions. In this case, only applies one of them. It is a norm, and its purpose is to provide commercial information about the product. And as it is part of the health sector, as well to write health information about the product. Now, let's talk about some of its benefits. The first one is the export. According to orthopedic products, this product is one of the most exported from Mexico to France. This means that it's very probably to be bought in France. The second one is the prestige. As well as in Mexico, in France, this product is going to be sold in one of the best pharmacies in the respective countries. Since Farmacia Mexico is one of the best pharmacies here in Durango, and City Pharma is the most known pharmacy in France. The third one is that it is very useful. As you already know, this product is very innovative since it helps the patients to walk even if they have fractures.
machinery to import. Uh, the machinery to import, we choose the Creative brand machine that is a model Ender 6 and is a 3D printer made of ABS plastic with high flow action. It has an approximately weight of 10 kilograms, and as additional information, it can be mentioned that is currently one of the printers with the best performance and speed as well as precision in its printing. This one is a technical data sheet that this one has all the information, all the specific information of the elaborate of the machinery, and for example mention the model, the build volume that is 215 mm3, and for example the structure is aluminum profiles, and mentions also the characteristics and the definition of this printer 3D. The tariff classification that we choose is the found in chapter 84 of the LIHI, and more specifically in the subhead of machines and devices for molding and forming. This one was chosen because a 3D printer is used to forming goods or whatever product. This merchandise does not come with any known regulations and restrictions, which involves monetary terms of premises or identifiers. It is only provided for import and export related to countries that have some type of conflict, such as the People Republic of Korea or the Islamic Republic of Iran, that in our case, this is not our case because we are going to import it to Germany and to Mexico. Then the benefits to use the printer 3D. Uh, we made an investigation and it will consist of the rigid part, which will be manufactured using a 3D printer, and also some parts that will cover that structure and will adapt to the foot. It is the fixed orthosis, only a single cover will be needed. If it is articulated, the ones that the patient needs will be manufactured. So this means that the printer 3D, it could be, or it could make the product better, that has a better quality, and it could be more personalized to the patient.
Okay, input of import. The name of the project is neoprene. Obtaining the neoprene is an isolated from a lattice by a process of continuous coagulation of the polymer film by washing and drying. The use of neoprene is sold either as a solid, rubber, or in a lattice form. The classification is 59.03.90.99. The non-tariff regulations is the NOM 004 SCFI 2006. The norm of the Summer if the package of the merchandise is made of wood, it must comply with the norm of 144 Summer 2012. This in order to prevent the introduction of pests and their dissemination.
Okay, in this chapter, we will see the market description in general. Next, please. Well, as a start in the description of the market, France has selected, since a large country was chosen on the hunch that this will facilitate the sales of this orthopedic supply, which was confirmed as true since after research sales in local stores showed that products of this type are imported from other countries and manufactured by larger companies, which generate a high cost, as well as an analysis of statics from main hospitals in France, such as Saint Louis, Rothschild, and Piri-Salpêtrière, report that accidents that require supplies are relative necessary and common for incidents of this nature. All this encourages it to be seen as viable market to develop this operation. Well, in this part, the target market for this product will be more specific, as well as the key points that drive it, also some that represent some barriers. But reiterating the aforementioned, it is considered that there is a great market gap in this country since it does not have a great focus on the part of many companies dedicated to this health sector, which generates a greater demand and therefore a higher possibility of sales. Not only due to the scarcity of this, but also the lack of competition towards the companies that sell orthopedic supplies results in much higher costs, which leaves the product involved in this project with a clear advantages. On the other hand, as a benefit for the chosen company is that this product is designed from its basis and inputs, which generates a low production cost and a greater profit for the seller. And finally, we cannot ignore that there are certain obstacles or inconveniences such as transport distances, considering that it is another continent, and in addition to the slightly higher cost by shipping companies, but that in the end, they are not enough obstacles to think that this operation is not a viable or profitable. Okay, uh, the company to export. Chosen as the most optimal, City Pharma will be the pharmaceutical company which could receive the greatest benefits in terms of sales in the sector targeted with the orthopedic boot product. Not to mention that competing companies around, it will be a great option for this, since the demand for this product is wide in the whole country. It is important to note that this company is located on Road du Fort, a place that is located so close to a very busy place, which is the Eiffel Tower. And this means that there is a high flow of people.
Now let's talk about the mean of transport of export. In this case, it's going to be maritime because it is the most used for international operations. So due to the distance between Mexico and France, this is the most convenient. And it is as well as convenient the coast. Here we have a table of comparison from the different types of transport. As you can see, the fastest one is the airplane. But in this case, we are not looking for the fastest because this product can be in the transport for any quantity of time because it resists to any kind of temperature. So it doesn't need any special requirement. Now we are looking for the cheapest one. In this case, is the maritime. Here we have the container. As you can see, we have an illustrative image. It is a container standard drive of 40 feet. Here we have as well its size. Now we have the loading and unloading equipment. In this case, three different types of tools are going to be used. The first one is the cargo personnel. The cargo personnel is going to be in charge to take the boxes off from from the first mean of transport. And it is going to be easy because each box doesn't have a weight greater than 5 kilograms. The next tool is going to be an hydraulic skid because it's the tool needed to put the merchandise in pallets. Once we have the pallets are going to be inside of the container, and for this, a forklift is going to be used.
Okay, about the physical examination, it is important to mention that this process is not completely necessary or mandatory, since to carry it out is necessary to obtain a red light in the automated selection mechanism. After this, a documentation review will be made by the verifier, and then the vehicle will be reviewed by means of gamma rays, which will be activated by an operator of this. Finally, reviewing the samples from by it, and in case of any irregularity, make a physical review to later return the truck track to its platform for its release, and so it can continue on its road.
Now, talking about the previous recognition, we need to mention what it is, and it's a review of the goods prior to the passing through the test traffic light of the customs. The aspect this preview recognition is that review are used to detect errors or omissions that may lead to infractions, administrative or criminal procedures. This has a legal base that is in the Article 42 of the Customs Law, and this says that si quien debe formular el pedimento ignora las características de las mercancías en depósito ante la aduana, podrá examinarlas para ese efecto. With this article, the authorities has the authorization to make a previous recognition to avoid all the aspect that I mentioned, that is the errors or omissions that the importer or exporter it could be has. Then who does it? There are three persons that it could be made these procedures, this procedure, and the first one is the custom agent. Also, it could be the custom attorney or the import or export representative. The previous documentation to the export and import for the previous recognition are well, for the importation are the registration to the General Register of Import. Then the proof of the value of the goods, that is this one, it could be the invoice. Then is the document that cover the transport, the covers to the transport, that it could be the way bill. And then is the document that will be complete the non-tariff regulations and restrictions. Then is the document that determines the origin of the merchandise. This one is the origin certificate. And in the case of the export, is also the registration in the General Register of Exporters, the proof of value of goods, and this, in this case, is also the invoice. Then is the document that protects compliance of the products. This one, it will be the packing list. Also is the covers to the transport, and this one as the import, it could be the way bill. Finally, for the export is the commercial invoice. Then Here is an acta, and we made this report of recognized previous recognition with our product. The acts prior to the dispatch of the goods. What is this? Well, this one is when the merchandise is already in the custom office to entry and waiting for the custom clearance to be carried out to remove it. Before doing this, the importer must consider the following. These are some documents that you need to add when you are in the dispatch of the goods. Is the commission conferred, the instruction letter. In this one, you need to put the custom region, which the merchandise is destined, the invoice data, bill of loading data, delivery address, and if it is required to the transport for deliver or custody service to the merchandise. Then is the manifestation of value. In this one is the statement writing and under protest of telling the truth with the elements that is the term of the custom law allowed to determine the customs value of the merchandise. Then is the prior examination of the goods that I mentioned previously. The authorized process in fiscal precincts or fiscalized precincts, the obtaining non-tariff regulation and restrictions, preparation of the motion, documentation attached to the import petition, the prevalidation and validation of the motion, and finally, you need to declare the payment of the contributes that you paid for your good. Here is features of the transport, that is the characteristics of the transport that we choose. And the first one was by land, and this one is to transport crossing the country to Durango, to the port of Altamira, Tamaulipas, and then to go to the port of France. That is what this transport is, the maritime. We choose this transport because it's an economic. It could be translate long distance, and in the case of the boat, it will be charge a lot of merchandise.
The deposit, the goods can be transported by land, air, sea, rail, river, and postal. In this case, we will do it by land from Durango to Altamira, Tamaulipas, and the maritime from the Altamira, Tamaulipas to Paris. The goods must have the customs clearance documents such as DORA, petition, COVE, certificate of origin, RNA, transport documents, custom account and warranty, weight certificate, and experts must have DORA, motion, COVE, and RNA. The validation, we have here the entry summary of the neoprene with the chart classification of 59.03, 0.90, 0.99 with a weight of 155. In the next entry summary, we will have the 3D print with the classification of 84.77, 0.80, 0.99 with a weight of 55. And the other entry summary is Walker goods with classification of 90.21.10.06 with a weight of 290. The entry summary checks the legal stay in the import of goods. This document includes data such as name of the import, customs offices of arrival of the goods and customs regime. In these slides, we have an example of the calculation of the contributions. In this example, we have the calculate the contributions of the Walker goods with 249 pieces with a unit price of $42.77. In this calculation, the commercial value, insurance, freight, and package are taken into account, as well as with a clearance box. This carefully calculation of contributions to avoid any mistakes with the following entry summary is taking place.
Okay, the data. This is the document which provides information on the documents suitable for the transport of the merchandise involved in this operation that is being carried out, which will be necessary to activate the automated selection mechanism. This document will not have to be presented in all operations. There will be an exception in the following: those that are transported by means of rail transport, operations with consolidated entry summary request with a V5 request code. On arrival at the destination customs, in the case of the transit operations with the entry summary request code T3, T7, and T9. Okay, the recognition processes. The recognition result from by the automatic selection mechanisms means that different review processes will be carried out starting with the general rules, which more broadly cover the guidelines to the following in the foreign trade, such as not transporting illicit merchandise that does not have a correct declaration, etc. This can be recognized by means of the documentary review, such as review of entry summary requests corresponding to the merchandise, the bill of lading for the verification of legal transport of the merchandise, and invoice CFDI or equivalent, etc. The next process will be to corroborate what is printed on the papers. That is to find that the documents coincide with the cargo that is being transported, which will be for physical review of the merchandise by the verifier. Uh, the conclude, to conclude this process, in the case in which there are insiders, they will be reviewed in a general way for their application in the 8th title of the customs law. Well, in export process, for this process, it will be necessary to initially define a technical data sheet for the merchandise linked to the operation. In this, it will be observed main data as well as characteristics and a complete meteorological analysis, which will be necessary for the following steps. And number two, a general review of the merchandise as well as its packaging will have to be carried out, only to confirm that there are no anomalies or irregularities in it. As next step, it will be necessary to carry out a classification process of the merchandise to be exported, because this will determine the contributions to be paid as well as regulations and non-tariff restrictions established in our country, and thus be able to carry out a regular operation without insiders. Next, defining the Incoterm or RAF is one of the most important things, since it is the signed contract that will define the responsibilities of the merchandise between the seller and the buyer. Uh, In the number 5, at this stage, the document required by the operation to be carried out must be filled out, such as an invoice, CFDI, or equivalent document, an entry summary request, a packing list, a bill of lading document, a document of customs clearance operation, a conference commission document, and possibly a declaration of value or certificates of origin in case in which is looking for obtain the benefits of a free trade agreement. In the number 6, then for all these documents to be official will be necessary to pre-validate and validate them with the corresponding authority. And finally, if it was carried out successfully in a correct way, it will be time to place the lot in assigned transfer for its later shipment.
Now we have the PAMA. It has its legal basis in Article 115 from Custom Law. It's a kind of long process, so I'm going to tell you in a very general way the steps in this case. The first one is to identify the subjects and transport involved in this operation. Some examples are the verifier, owner of the goods and their witness, and the transport and container, that you already know. In this case, the merchandise had a green light in the traffic light, but 31 kilometers later, the transport was stopped by the verifier in order to check the merchandise. So the verifier starts checking the merchandise and it has to take note of the irregularities that he's finding. And the irregularities must be established, and in this case was that the document that proves the legal state of the merchandise was not present. This is a very serious irregularity, so I'm going to tell you what is going to happen next. And there is a person designed to do the tariff classification of the merchandise. So this person starts doing the tariff classification based in the legal notes, and then that person presents the final classification. Once the person has the tariff classification, they have access to the contributions. So they start calculate them, and the contribution must be presented in a table. As I already told you, this irregularity was very serious, so it happens to be a precautory embargo. So for this, the merchandise that is paying sites must be established. In this case, the merchandise are 5 3D printers from Germany, and they have to write some aspects about the merchandise. For example, its quantity, brand, um, origin, and description of the merchandise. There is where the PAMA begins, and the corresponding authority must notify the merchandise owner that the PAMA has begun in order to them to present evidence in their favor. To present proofs and evidence, they have a period of 10 days. After those 10 days have happened, the authority checks the proofs and evidence in order to finally give them a final resolution.
Talking about the home visit, in this one, they are control acts that are authorized to in the physical address, the establishment of, or the premises showed by the contributor. The purpose of this revision is to verify the tax status of the taxpayer and where appropriate determine the omitted contribution and their accessories irregularities in customs matter. Likewise, to verify the legal state in the country of goods that are presumed are of foreign origin are in the domicile of the taxpayer. An administrative procedure in custom matter may be initiated in those cases in which during a domestic visit for a merchandise is founded, whose legal state in the country is not accredited or is failed. The visitors may precautionary seizure of the merchandise of origin and for origin, provided that the facts are located in one of the assumptions that says in the article 151 of the customs law and comply with the formalities indicates in the same article. The process is that the first one is visit order, the second one is the partial act of initiation, then the acts or omission, the final acts, and finally the resolution. Here is the transit of goods. This is presented when is the translate of the merchandise by land. The internal regime consists of the transfer of merchandise under fiscal control from one national customs office to another one. The customs office of entry sends the goods of foreign origin to the customs office that will be in charge of the clearance for importations. This have place in all the transportation of the goods to one place to another and is made by authorized persons. The custom deposit is when the merchandise will be deposited before customs in the fiscal or audited areas designated for this purpose, with the purpose of destinating them to a custom region, as long as it is a question of maritime or air traffic customs. This is a image when take part a custom deposit. Then is the custom guarantee accounts. What is this? Well, this is the are those bank accounts that serve to the importer to guarantee through deposit in financial institution authorized by the tax administration service, that is the SAT, and the payment of the differences in contributions of the declared values with respect to the prices estimated by the SAT. The validation, this one takes place in the Article 16A of the Customs Law, and this one that we choose for all the merchandise that we are going to export and import is of 240. Well, the validation, it consists of verifying that the data recorded in the petition are within the criteria determined by the SAT. Then it is an obligation to validate those who introduce or extract goods from the country. Also, this service is offered by confederations, the Chamber of Deputies, etc. And finally, it is not applicable to grant authorizations to importer, exporter, or customs agents.
PAMA. The administrative procedure in customs matters, better known as PAMA, is set the acts provided from the customs law carried out successfully in order to determine the situation in the foreign trade and the taxation of the merchandise at time of entering or leaving the country. The PAMA that is applied in this project is based on the Article 176 of the Fraction 11 of the Customs Law. This PAMA proceeds with the following incidents: due to false or not existent data from the importer or supplier in the petition or invoice. Okay, the first point will be from Durango to Altamira, Tamaulipas. We can see that we have three types of routes. The most valuable to go is through Zacatecas, San Luis Potosí, and finally reach in Tamaulipas. This will estimate duration of 11 hours and 14 minutes. From the port of Altamira in Tamaulipas, the merchants will travel to where City Farmers is located in Paris, France. The trip is estimate of 16 days. This estimate may vary in May up to 70 days and not too longer of 20.
Okay, that will be all by our part. Thank you so much for your attention.
Now we are going to tell you our conclusions about this project. By my part, I can say that this project was very difficult, but it was worth it because we learned lots of new things. In the last Integrative project, we had the opportunity to do an expert, but now we had the opportunity to see what is behind an expert. In this case, we did two different imports in order to have the final product for the export. And I think it was very amazing because we learned that always behind a trade operation is going to be others. So it is very interesting. And I think we must know that because now we are going to go to estadías and we are going to work with uh, real cases. And I think this integrative project was only a little bit of what is happening in the real world.
Okay, in my opinion, for my conclusion, it's just that I think that this project is the most challenging that I have had. But also I think that being this kind of difficult is the nearest for the reality or the reality situations that we will have in our laboral life. That is because I think also when it is difficult, it is important to carry out this kind of projects uh, because of the experience that we get with them.
Okay, in my conclusion, I think that is this project is hard, even harder than the other interactive project that we have. Um, but finally, I want to say thanks to all my coworkers for the help that they bring to me, the help that the teachers bring us. Thank you for all of that. We have a lot of knowledge now with this interactive project, and this knowledge that we have now, we are going to use from the future. And thanks everybody.
My part, my conclusion about this project is that yes, we have a lot of work because it is not only an exportation. We must to made two imports also, so that made this project a little hard, but I'm happy because this project made me uh, investigate and analyze about a lot of topics that I couldn't understand with some teachers, but when I take place when I made this investigation, I couldn't provide that all the information that all the teachers give us. It could be applied in all these process that we that we made. Um, I think that it was a challenge, but I think that we made the best effort for us. And I think that this is all for our part. I hope that this integrative project made us better in the, as Claudia say, better in the in the real life.